A very warm welcome to all of you, my dear students. Welcome back once again to your favorite YouTube channel, that's Let's Learn Together. And this is Shafiq Ahmed. And as you know, we have started this chapter. Two tutorials are always done or already have been done. And this is the third tutorial related to grade 10 history, the rise of nationalism in Europe. And let us move our topic to our next topic is revision of few dates. We have to revise few of the dates over here so that we can move ahead by remembering these particular dates with that, because dates are quite important in history, as we all know, my dear students. So let us move ahead. Let us recap. In 1789, that was the beginning of the French Revolution. And 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte became the Emperor of France, and he introduced Civil Code of 1804. Just after 5 years, he brought some changes in France through the name of Napoleonic Code or the Civil Code of 1804 that we have discussed in our previous tutorial. That is there 1804. He became the emperor in 1799, and he introduced 1804. In 1804, that is Napoleon introduced the Civil Code of 1804. And 1815, and in 1815, Napoleon lost the Battle of Waterloo, which marked the end of his rule in France. That is in the year 1815. That was the end of the rule of Napoleon Bonaparte in France. We will go through in detail about the Battle of Waterloo also later on. So let us see that how can you brush up your knowledge. So there are a few questions for you, my students. If you will write the answers of this question, then your notes will automatically be prepared. So better to note down this question, take the screenshot and try to write down the answers of these following 10 questions. So your notes will also be prepared, and I hope that you can absolutely do it by going through the two previous videos. Let us move ahead, my dear students. The making of nationalism in Europe, that is really quite interesting. How did they make Europe a nationalist country? How did they make? What were the things? So let me tell you first of all that there were no nation state. What do you mean by nation state over here? That there was no such a state in France or throughout Europe. I would like to say throughout Europe, that there was no such state or country in Europe that they were having nation state where the people were sharing common language, common tradition, common French, common flag. There were no such nation state. Means there was quite different type of people living in a separate way. So there were no nation state during this mid 18th century. That is, you can say 1750s and onwards. That is the mid 18th century in Europe, because of the large diversity. That what was the reason in Europe? That because of the large diversity, different type of people living there, and wishing, or you can say practicing different type of religion, languages, and food habits, different thinking and beliefs also. There were different languages also, and people belong to different tribal groups or the cultural groups also. That is one of the reason that there was no nation state during mid 18th century throughout Europe. And you will have to mention in your 1 mark answer, one word answer, one line answer, that why there was no nation state in Europe during mid 18th century. So what you will write, you will have to write over from here: because of the large diversity, different languages, and people belong to different tribal and cultural groups. That was why there was no nation state in Europe during this mid 18th century. Then afterward, if you got the question of 5 marks, then you should mention ahead that the Habsburg Empire that was ruling Austria-Hungary. There was a rule in Austria-Hungary by the Habsburg Empire. So it was also a collection of many different regions as well as people. That is also one of the example that you can mention over there. Here are a few examples. The Habsburg Empire contains many different type of regions and people in Austria-Hungary. The Alpine region, the Tyrol, Austria, Sudetenland, as well as Bohemia, where the aristocracy, means noble people or the upper class people who were ruling the country, they were just speaking German speaking people. So you can see There is a difference in the language also. German speaking people were dominating in this region, in the Alpine region, and the Alpine region include these three states, these three places, four places: Tyrol, Austria, Switzerland, and Bohemia. So the people in the Alpine region were speaking German speaking people, and they were the aristocrats, means the noble people and the upper class people. They were there. So they were dominating. Alpine region included also the Italian speaking provinces also of Lombardy and Venetia. So you can see there was a mixture. There was a mixture of German speaking and Italian speaking people. So there was no common language. Nothing was there to share common. That's why there was no nation state in Europe. You can see different places are having different type of people speaking different type of languages also. In Hungary, that is the third example you can give. Half of the population spoke Magyar, another language, while the other half was speaking local languages, including French also. So you can see, you can give examples. And in Hungary also, half population was speaking different language and half were speaking mixture of many languages. Half was speaking Magyar and the other half was speaking many languages, many local languages, which include French also. This is another example that you can mention why there was no nation state in Europe during this mid 18th century. Now let us move ahead. Beside these three dominant groups, we have seen that there were German speaking people, there were Italian speaking people, and there were French speaking people also. And there were Magyar speaking people also. But these three groups of people were very dominant groups. Who were they? Italian speaking, French speaking, and German speaking. They also believed within the boundaries of there are also lived within the boundaries of the empire a mass of subject peasant peoples, including that this dominant group of people, German, Italian, and French speaking people. There were also a group of people living along the boundaries of the empire, and that group of people were the peasant, those who were the laborers, those who were the farmers. They were also living there. For examples, Bohemians and Slovaks to the north of Europe, Slovenes and Carniola Croats to the south, and Romans to the east in Transylvania. These are the examples, my dear student. You will have to remember these few names. So such differences didn't easily promote a sense of political unity. Yes, that is quite right, because different type of people living there in Europe, and even they were speaking different languages. And the aristocrats, means the upper class people, were having their own language, which they were really very proud of. So these differences was really there in the throughout Europe, which was not easy to create. Sense of political unity, sense of unity among the people, because different people, type of people were living there. And the only tie binding these diverse groups together was that they were loyal to the emperor. They were only, there was one common thing among them. That common thing was that everyone was loyal to the emperor. That is the only thing that was binding all these diverse and different groups of people together. The only thing was binding them together was the loyalty to the emperor. Otherwise they were all different. So that is why there was really, it was very hard to make or convince people regarding their nation, nationalist. Now our next topic is what? Emergence of nationalism and the idea of nation state, that we will have to study in detail. How did the idea of nationalism emerged, means started among in the people, the idea of nationalism, how it spread, how it started, and what was the idea of the nation state in the mind of the people. Let us see. So around 1750 to 1850, that 1815, you remember the end of the Napoleon rule. So from 1750, that is the mid 18th century, to 1815, in Europe, the societies were divided into two divisions, and later on they were divided into three one. And what were those three divisions? The aristocracy, the peasantry, and the middle class. So now we will have to go through these three different division of the societies one by one. So you will have to remember that the Europe that the societies in Europe during the 1750 to 1815, it was divided into three different divisions. There were three different division of societies: aristocracy, peasantry, and the middle class. Let us start about discussing about the aristocracy, that is the upper class people. They were the highest class in the society. Highest class, you mean, they were the highest one, and they owned most of the lands of the country. Means most of the lands were owned by these aristocrat people. They were the highest class. They were land owning class also. They were also known as land owning class. The aristocracy was known as the land owning class also. Remember this for MCQ, my dear students. They were the dominant also because they were the rich one. Na? They were having a lot of land. So they were giving land on rent to the peasants, no, to the lower classes people. And they were earning a lot of money. So they were dominant also. They were quite dominant on the continent, both socially and politically, on both the ways. They were dominating politically also, means they were holding a lot of offices, high positions in the country, and even they were dominating socially also. They owned estates in the countryside, means places, a lot of land in the countryside, as well as in the town also. Means in the villages they were having land, and even in the town they were having a lot of houses. These people were quite rich and they were dominant, you can see. And they spoke what? And they spoke French for purpose of diplomacy. Rajniti karne ke liye they used to speak French language, and they were thinking about the French language, that this language is only for the upper class people. So to show off that the language French is quite rich language, and this language should be only spoken by the aristocrat people, the land owning class people. They were speaking French to show off, to show to the people that this is the language of the upper class people only. Their families were also very connected by the ties of marriage. What it means that their families, they marriage among themselves from one family to another family. Means they do not go to the other class people to marry. They used to marry among themselves only, means among their only relatives. They don't go to the next the peasantry class or the middle class people. They do not marry. Means they do not mix up their families with their local lower classes families. So their families were often connected by the ties of marriage, and that is the quite important and effective for them. This powerful aristocracy was, however, numerically a small group. That is quite certain. Everywhere throughout the world you will find that the rich people are not large in number. They are always small in number, but even then they used to what? They used to dominate over the lower people, over the poor. In India, and in all of the countries, you will find that the rich people are quite small in number. They are not large in number. So they were numerically a small group, but they were the highest one. They were the dominating one, and they were the land owning class, and they were speaking French. So remember all these points about the aristocracy. When you will be asked to write about something around something about the aristocracy group, so you must mention they were the highest class, they were the land owning class, they were dominant, and they were having house in the country as well as town places also. They were speaking French, and they were connected by the ties of marriage, and they were small in number also. That you can mention. There are 7 points, my dear students. And you can also see they were united by a common way of life. Means everyone was living and enjoying a common way. Means everyone in the aristocracy group, they were enjoying the same type of life. They were having unique way of living. Means special type of food, special type of clothes wearing also, and they used to marry among themselves also. Means they were having some unique way of living which cannot be copied by the lower class people, because it was they were the highest class, they were the richer class, you can see. So there are 8 points that you can mention, my dear students. Remember the keywords in every point. Highest class is the keyword over here. Land owning class, dominant class, houses in countryside and town, speaking French, connected by ties of marriage. These are the keywords, my dear students, that will help you to write down, sir, to frame your answers. That they were numerically a small group, and they were enjoying a common way of life. These are the keywords, my dear students. I have highlighted for you, so that you can remember this keyword, and you always can create or frame sentences of your own. Now let us move ahead to the next group, that is the peasantry, farmers, laborers. The majority of the population was made up of this peasantry, and not only in Europe, my dear students, throughout the world you will find this peasantry group. They are quite large in number. They are the majority of the population, but they are ruled by those small group of people of aristocrats. Everywhere you will find. They used to cultivate, these people, the peasantry group. They used to cultivate and they used to look after the land of the aristocrats. Means they work for the aristocrats, because aristocrats were having the lands and they used to give their land to this peasantry group to look after the land and grow crops in their land. And for what? And for that they are paid something. You can say to the, you can see over here to the west, the bulk of the land was farmed by tenants and small owners. To the west of the Europe, bulk of the land means much of the land was farmed by the tenants, means they were just have to give rent to the owner of the land. They will have to pay the rent. They were a small owner, there were small owners also, means few of the farmers were having their own land also, but they were small owners, means a small amount of land they were having. But the bulk of the land was found by the tenants. Tenant is over here the rentals, those who have taken land on rent from the aristocrat people. They are the tenants over here, so they will have to pay certain amount of rent to the aristocrat for using their land. While in Eastern and Central Europe, the pattern of landholding was characterized by vast estates which were cultivated by the serfs. Serfs means that is serfdom, that is forced labor, means labor were forced to do work in their land. Where? In the Eastern and the Central Europe. They were forced means they were bonded laborers. That was the status of the peasants. Now let us come to the middle class of the people. Due to the growth in the industrial sector, during in the second half of the 18th century, there was a large growth in the industrial sector and industrial production in the second half of the 18th century. So a new group of people emerged from there, from industrial sector, or the people or the persons who were working in the industries. They emerged as a new social group, and they were known as the middle class, or you can say the working class population. Means they were just working and working. They are the middle class people, those who were working in the industries of the rich one. They include industrialists. You can see industrialists were there. Businessmen was also there in this middle class. Professionals such as teachers, doctor, engineers, everyone was included in this middle class. Industrialists were also working, businessmen also working, professionals and the industrial workers, teachers, doctors, everyone was included in this particular middle class people. And for them, the growth of industrial production and trade meant the growth of towns. For them, for these middle class people, they think if there would be a growth of towns, it means there should be a growth in the industrial production also, growth in the industrial production and trade also. And they think that if the industry will grow and if the industry will produce and trade will flourish, then only there will be growth of towns, and there will be emergence of a commercial class also, means the people who will do commerce trading. Then there will be only growth of this particular growth of towns as well as commercial classes. When when there will be growth of industrial production. So more production means the growth of towns. More and better trade means growth of towns and emergence of commercial classes. That is the thinking of the middle class people. In Central and Eastern Europe, the middle class were smaller in number till late 19th century. Late 19th century means you can see that is the late 19th century. It is 1890s, 1890s to 1895s, you can say. They were quite smaller in number, these middle class people. They were the educated also people, because they were the industrialists, businessmen, professional teachers, or also their doctors, engineers. They are qualified people. So these middle class people included this educated class of people also, where ideas of nationality gained popularity. Means from here you can say the idea of what nationality, the idea of nationalism is spread from here. it got popular over here because people here are educated. They know the value of freedom, liberty, equality. That's why the idea such as nationalism is spread from here only. It started and it gained popularity in this class. Two different ideas that emerged from them were the idea of, let me tell you, my dear students, here comes the twist over here, and you will have to learn a lot from here. Two different ideas emerged from the middle class. This question is frequently asked in your board exam, that what were the two different ideas that emerged in the middle class, that started from middle class people. Number one, the idea, first idea was the idea of nation state, to create a nation state, to create such a country or a state where the people would share common language, common tradition, common history, culture, and where the people will live together in a unique way, in a uniform way. So this was the first idea, to create a nation state or a nation country where the people will share common language, tradition, history, culture, and they will all live together. That was the first idea that emerged from the middle class people. And the next idea was about the liberal nationalism. Now, what is this new term? Liberal nationalism means freedom from the individual, freedom for the individual, and equality for all before the law. That is the next idea that emerged from the middle class people, that every individual is free to take his or her decision, to live his or her life according to his or her choice. And the idea of equality before law emerged from this particular middle class group of people. So two ideas, the idea of nation state or country and the idea of liberal nationalism, emerged from the middle class people. So let us move and complete one more topic, my dear students. That is the topic related to liberal nationalism. What is it? The term liberalism derives from the root, Latin word liber, which means free. So don't hesitate. Don't get confused, my dear students. Liberal means free. That is all. And for the new middle class people, liberal nationalism means they want free, and they want their country to get nationalized, means everyone should have the feeling of the nation, everyone should be proud of their nation. That is the thinking of the middle class people. They wanted this liberal nationalism, freedom of an individual. The first thing that they want to mean by this liberal nationalism, है ना, liberal nationalism से पहला वो क्या समझते थे? Let us have some points over here. You can be asked to write in your exam also. Freedom of individual, first one. They wanted in liberal nationalism, in the concept of liberal nationalism, they want one first thing, that freedom of individual, when everyone should be free. For the new middle class, liberalism is to for freedom of individual. Every individual should be free. And the next idea was included in liberal nationalism was that equality before law. Everyone should be law should be equal for everyone. That is equality, all equality of law before the law. That is the next idea, equality of all before the law. Everyone should be equal in the eye of law. And the third idea, that is quite important, my dear student, that is government with people agreement. Means the government should be like that they should agree with the people. They should not be any dictatorship type of government. They want government which should agree with the people, government with people agreement. And they wanted the end of that autocracy rule. That is, autocracy rules mean that aristocracy rule, that is the rule of the dictatorship type of government or the autocrat. They want to end this particular rule. They don't want the power to lie in one hand only. They want power to be distributed, you know, distributed in different levels. They don't want the power to lie in only one hand. And that's why they supported that the power should be in the hand of the citizens only. The citizens should hold the power. Every power should be in the hand of citizens. That was one of the great idea of the middle class people under the concept of liberal nationalism. End of clerical privilege. They don't want any type of privilege to be given to any type of group or any type of people or any group of people. Such as you know that in France they were the first and second state people were enjoying many privileges such as exemption from taxes, and even they were collecting taxes from the third state people. So they wanted to put an end to all these privileges and the luxurious life that was given to the priest of the church. So they want this end of the clerical means those who were working in the church. So they wanted to end the privileges of those people who were working in the church, especially the priest. What they wanted more? A constitution. They wanted a constitution, and they wanted a representative government like we are having in India. We are having both. We are having in India our constitution. We are also enjoying representative government. They wanted to establish voting system to elect their representative. Who will represent them in the parliament? That is all we are having in India also. So that was also the thinking of the liberal nationalism, that they wanted a constitution and they wanted a representative government also. One more thing, inviolability of private property means rebels also straight on the security of the private property. Means if someone is having a private property, then no one should be able to take it from that particular person. Means property should be secured. If someone is having property, then that property should be there only. No one can take that. And the next one, very important, my dear students, that is trade barrier. Means they don't want any barrier, only any type of restriction while trading. They stood for freedom of markets, means everyone should be free to purchase and sell anywhere. And they want abolition of that state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Means actually what was there in France and Europe, that if a particular good or a particular product will move from one state to another state of the same country, then there will be paying of taxes. They will have to pay taxes. So that was taken as the restriction on the movement of goods. People were not ready to move their goods from one state to another goods, because they will have to pay taxes, and they might incur loss, or they might not earn huge profit also. So that was taken as a restriction in the movement of the goods. So what liberal nationalists want, they want to remove these restriction. They want to remove these internal custom duty, that is the tax charged on them for moving of goods. They want freedom of markets. They want freedom of movement of goods and capital, and which was the very strong demand of these middle class people during this 19th century. So I have discussed with you these 8 points. You must at least remember 5 of them with 2 or 3 lines like this that you can see in the screen. On the screen also, you will have to mention the heading in your exam, and you will have to mention like 2 or 3 points in every point. That is the way of writing answers in board exam, my dear students. Try to remember how you should write the answers to get full marks. You will have to write down like this heading, bold in bold form, and then you will have to write 1 or 2 line or 3 lines to explain it also. That is all in this class, my dear students. We will continue in our next class. Stay at home, stay safe, and please go through the video again and again and again to have a better clarification and understanding. And if you are new to this channel, then please subscribe the channel and share it with your friends. Also like the video. Don't forget to comment and like the video also. That's all. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care, my dear students.